Implausible Nature now has dice. That's right, you can get these awesome D6s made by our partner Baron of Dice. These custom dice have the Implausible Nature logo on the six side and also come with square corners, which means they will roll more evenly than rounded corner dice. Head on over to baronofdice.com and use discount code IN40K to get a discount on your order and support us at the same time. Check out his full collection of dice for all your gaming needs with the link down in the description.
Well, welcome to Implausible Nature, your home for all things Black Templars. Welcome back, guys. We've got a video on the updated MFM that just dropped. It's all the buzz, and not in a good way this time. Some definite, pretty heavy-handed nerfs, in my opinion, to Black Templars and Space Marines in general, who really didn't need it. I mean, generic Space Marines are sitting at 37% win rate. Black Templars are 47% as a faction, not even looking at Righteous Crusaders. But we're going to get into talking about all of that and more. There was one or two good things that did come out of this amidst the red of points nerfs to specifically Black Templars. So yeah, so let's get right into it here. So as you can see, we've got the MFM points here for Black Templars, and that's a lot more red than green there, Bob. So
Yeah.
to start us off, we'll just go ahead and rip the band-aid off and talk about the bad stuff right out of the gate. I'm sure that's what everyone is here for anyway, to hear our thoughts on this pretty insane nerf to Primaris Crusader squads. So the 10-man went up 10 points, which it's not horrible. It's not
Yeah,
horrible, right?
it's to be expected. We thought it was going to happen for
Yeah,
quite a while.
they're still really great at 150 points. You should absolutely run 10 mans at 150 points. Really stellar unit still. They're still the only unit in the game with 5 attack chain swords. Eat your heart out, Blood Angels, World Eaters, whoever else. Um, so, really still good at that. But then you go to the 20 man, and instead of going up 20 points, like you'd expect, no, it's a 40-point increase. So instead of being 280, they are 320, and that is just patently absurd, in
Yeah.
my opinion. Um, so what is your thought on this, Bob? Are we going to see 20 mans anymore? Are they even worth taking a 20 man anymore? Which is kind of how GW wants us to play this.
All right. Well, I am kind of the opinion that they're a, a very hard counter to a few armies out there, and GW probably just did not want us to have a hard counter to armies that they want to sell. But just frankly, that's what it is. So the problem with the 20 mans is, do I think it was needed? No. I would have taken the 10 man and then, taken the 20-point hike on the 20 man.
Still a
Um,
significant buff, especially if you're running 4 to 5 squads in them. That's still 100 points.
yeah,
Like you're dropping a unit. So,
yeah,
you know, I think 40 was an extremely heavy-handed nerf.
yeah. So I stepping back, I can see why they did that, because 20 mans, they take buffs so much better
They
with
do.
20 man. So they probably felt like, hey, we need to give a little bit more oomph to that 20 man because of the extra mass of buffing that you could give a 20 man versus a 10 man. But I still think that's just way too much. 20 points extra for the 20 man still would have been plenty enough. I agree. That's taken a full unit out of the list, which when you're taking Black Tide like that with 4 or 5 of the 20 man units, that's a huge uh, selection of your limited points for your support pieces. And that means you have to probably consider taking out a 20 man unit and putting those points towards support units, because you can't just run 5 units. I know there was that one list that we had the 5 units of them, and then like I think it was like 2 scout squads, and that was
Yeah.
it. But I feel like it's not a sustainable army to do that. 4 units, okay, I can see it in doing that, but it hard countered a lot of different lists, and they just could not get through all of those bodies. I mean, that's just frankly what it is, and they probably felt it was too cheap to have black orcs on the board. But here's the thing: you have to be very, very experienced with the list to be able to make it work, because as soon as you pull out 100 Marines, 100 plus Marines, especially at a tournament, you're going to get chest clocked instantly.
Yep.
So you have to be able to get that 2.5 hour game in with 100 plus Marines. And unless you're very fast, most of us, I would say 85% of the Black Templars community is not going to get that done.
No.
You're going to get 3 turns, maybe 4. So you're going to be clocking out and not even have all your games. So do I think that 20 mans are going away? No, I don't think that they are totally. I think there is going to be some play for maybe 1 or 2 units, maybe. But then you can split those 20 mans into 10 mans. They just not going to have character support.
So, do you think that we're going to see lists with 4 blocks of these guys?
I don't think so.
So what about like lists with like 2 to 3?
There's possibility to see 2. So you still have the ability to take Grimaldus and Helbrecht with them.
Well, also went up. That's another 20 points. I don't know why the hell Grimaldus went up. I mean, he really wasn't worth 120 points to begin with. Like, his buffs are great, yes, but he's super susceptible to snipers and precision. He's very easy to precision out. He's got 4 wounds and a 4-up invul. Like, all you need to do is fail a couple of saves and you're dead. And Helbrecht isn't all that durable either. He's got 5 wounds and a 2+, 4+. So neither one of them, yeah, their buffs are good, but both of them are susceptible to precision. So I think nerfing them on top of the 20-man squads was just also uncalled for.
Yeah, that's really what they were shooting for, and why they really did it. I think 50 points on top of like one of those units to really put the nail into the coffin for the 20-man plus character support, because that's ultimately what it was. They both wanted to get that 20-man out of there, plus the buffers that were commonly used with them.
So to play devil's advocate, like, I understand that like 80 Crusaders hard counters a couple different tournament style lists, a couple different armies in general, but again, we're a faction that's 47% win rate overall, and I can pull up the stat check on Righteous Crusaders, but I guarantee it's less than 47%. I'm pretty sure it's Gladius that's still putting us up to that number with its win rate. So, just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, and we have gotten 2 or 3 wins with this style list, so it was definitely on the radar for Games Workshop.
We did, yeah.
But 47% win rate, I don't think it was necessary that we needed to be addressed, honestly. I get that all the armies got touched, basically. Some with the kids' gloves, some with like the boxing gloves. So I think we got the black eye. But with that being said, I've had a couple days to stew on it now, and by the time that you get this, it'll probably be a couple days more. I think it's a challenge that I personally take, or like kind of the show at Games Workshop. You're like, okay, we can still perform. Is it necessary that they did it? No. they have come out and said that they are going to be doing a data slate in December, I think it was, and maybe we'll see some adjustments based on that. We'll see, but I take these nerfs and these now game Black Templars are out of it, and I've seen a lot of people say that they're not going to play the rest of the edition, and I honestly don't think that's necessary. There's nothing
Yeah, it's
wrong
definitely
with the
taking it too
10-man
far.
units.
I've had some folks reach out to me and ask me what my thoughts are and am I disappointed or, and I said, well, yeah, I'm definitely disappointed. But we'll adapt and we'll carry on the same as we always have. Weirdly enough, we're used to not having an amazing win rate as Black Templars. I think only once in the long history that I've been playing have we been literally at the top of the meta, and that was recently, and it was like 2 percentage points above the Goldilocks zone. That GW, that 45 to 55%, we were like 57, 56%, something like that. And we got hit with Nerfs then too, so it didn't last long. So, I'm used to GW nerfing us. We're used to, having an uphill battle as Black Templars. So we'll adapt and carry on. So those are the big nerfs. Moving on to a unit nobody cares about, got nerfed for absolutely zero reason at all. Not that it matters at all. The regular Firstborn Crusader squad also got a price hike for its 20-man. Not that anyone cares, because no one was running it to begin with, because they're terrible. And I guess maybe GW was afraid that people would pivot into that unit instead, but I can't see it because part of the appeal of the 20-man is not just 20 bodies that are, a 3+ save. It's the fact that they have 5 attacks each on the chainsword, and I think the basic guys have the firstborn guys have 3. So, and their neophytes don't even have chainswords, I don't think. So they're awful. So nobody was going to run them, but regardless, they got nerfed anyway. So, that's really more of a, hey, we just want to talk about it because it's red here on the sheet. Moving on to buffs. Both the Marshal and the Castellan finally got their 5-point price drop back because they're both inferior versions of the Captain and the Lieutenant. So they went down. So if you need to squeeze 5 extra points out and you're running a Lieutenant, maybe, take the Castellan instead. So it's nice to have that option again, get those extra 5 points. Because sometimes you'd be like, I'm 5 points short. I need 5 points. And there's no more 5-point war gears to drop. This is one of those that you can turn that switch and just lose a little bit. Really you're taking the Lieutenant for the lethal hits. Let's be honest here. His combat prowess, that one attack or what, that's not what we don't care about that. We're taking him as a enhancement caddy, either Sigismund Seal or Tannhauser Bones, and for those lethal hits. So that's really his whole purpose in life. Yeah. So that is the Black Templar specific points. We're gonna scroll down here and take a look at the generic Space Marine stuff as well, because they definitely got a mixed bag of stuff for regular Space Marines. So for the the Codex units, so to speak. So
anything that is a competitive take got nerfed.
Yeah. So Apothecary Biologist went up. Was it 5 points? Was he 65 before? So he's 65. 70 points now. Well, it's not a huge deal, but these little points add up, right? Assault Intercessors with jump packs went up 10, which, all right, that's fair, I guess. They're really, really good, and they're still really good at 90 points because they dish out mortal wounds.
Funny enough, the 10-man unit's still 160.
Right, which I think is interesting too. because people were spamming the 5-man unit. So GW has taken note of that. And the Eradicators went up 5 points too. Now 100 and 200 for that. I don't think... Vanguard Vets went up. Why? I guess there must have been...
They were actually showing up back in lists.
Were they? Was it...
Yeah.
It must have been some other army, because it sure as heck wasn't us.
Black Templar... not Black Templars, Blood Angels.
Blood Angels,
some
yeah.
standard.
Yeah. So they went up. I don't know what they were before, because they're terrible for us. I would never run them. I think they're only good in very specific circumstances, when you can pile buff after buff on them, which is what Blood Angels can do. So, yeah, they probably deserve that. Fire Discipline, unsurprisingly, went up. It's still the best thing in Gladius. Stormlance had a thing that went up and a thing that went down. Unless you're Space Wolves, Stormlance is complete garbage, so irrelevant for us, but figured we'd mention it anyway. And there was a whole lot of points drops for a lot of stuff that mostly doesn't matter. So we'll run through those real quick. Notably, the one that's notable to me is the Ballistus Dreadnought. He dropped 10 points. I think Ballistuses are good. And I think they're worth taking. So getting a points drop was surprising to me, but I'll take it, right? We've got the Captain and Phobos armor went down to 70 points. Heavy Ints went down to 95. The Invader ATV went down to 60. Invictor went down to 125. How do you feel about an Invictor at 125, Bob?
It's an interesting distraction. Carnifex.
Because wasn't it 140? It was 140,
Yeah,
right?
140. So it's a 15 point drop.
points.
I'm also somewhat interested in the Invader ATV being 60 points. That's a pretty cheap multi caddy.
I don't know. 60 points is a lot. It's also a huge model.
We were taking attack bites for 60 points.
But they were tiny. So they were very small and easy to hide. This thing is like 3 times the size of an attack bike. I don't know. Maybe. The go-kart, maybe. Of course, it also went down in its Outrider squad, which Outriders are now cheaper than Assault Intercessors with jump packs. So, depending on what you're using them for, they might, if you weren't worried about any damage output, if you need to save 10 points, that might be, because I can already hear Bob's response. Might be something to consider. Yeah, I know. Moving on, Reavers went down 5 points. Now, we were talking with our friend David Anderson, aka Orion, on our server, and you guys were all high on Reavers, like, oh, they're worth taking now. And I'm like, are you insane? 5 points is not that much of it. They still suck. And I've said this for a very long time, that like if you're ever going to run Reavers, you run them with the Phobos Lieutenant, because they can deep strike and then shoot and move, which is very gimmicky, and I don't. But it's still expensive for what it is, and they're not going to do anything in melee. They're not very good. You can like layer on some buffs with them from, Righteous Crusaders to make them okay-ish, but I don't think they're worth their points. But you guys were very high on them. So tell me, what are your thoughts on them?
I won't say very high.
You guys are talking about putting them in a tournament list. To me, that's very high.
I did say that they're an interesting take now, and David, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but what he amounted to saying and why he liked them was the fact that they throw out a bunch of attacks, which they do. And you do put that captain with the Phobos armor on him.
Lieutenant.
Or I'm sorry, yeah, the lieutenant with the Phobos armor.
Yep, the one that
So
has
you can
deep
move.
strike.
Yeah, and lethal.
Yeah.
So then they have precision on all their weapons, and they can go character killing. They're also kind of an annoying unit to just try and kill. So he referred to it as a jail unit.
Yeah,
that's the first time I've heard of that term.
Yep.
But
Basically,
I call them just bubble wrap.
tie something up is the
Yeah,
purpose of them. Because they can
so
drop
you
in and then move 6 inches and then charge. So um, I don't know. I'm willing to try it, I guess. The models are cool. I would love for a reason to field the models. They're cool. I have a bunch of converted Reavers that I built ages ago because they're cool. And
yeah.
I had extra Phobos bodies, so I was like, let's make some
So,
cool looking Reavers.
so
Um,
with lethal hits, they can do a decent amount ish
you can
of
slap Fervent and
wounds.
Crusader's Wrath on them in deep slap fervent on them in deep strike and then Crusader's Wrath. So I mean, if you want to spend some CP on them, they might kill some light units. I don't know. I'd have to do some math on it to be honest, but um,
So it's
yeah,
just an interesting possibility. 150 plus lieutenant is, I mean, not terrible for a distraction unit that's out there.
yeah. Would you run a ten
So
man or a 5 man?
I probably, if I'm gonna do that, I'm probably gonna do it in a 10 man because I don't think 5 man is gonna push enough wounds through with lethal to make a difference on a character, um,
Fair,
which is why you would probably want to do it. And 5 man's not really enough bodies to hold something up long term.
true.
So
In other things no one cares about, the big RG man himself went down 15-ish points, I think. Storm speeders all dropped some amount of points. I still don't really care for them. Um, you know, for like 125 for the hammer strike, I'd probably rather take a Invictor, or spend 5 points more and get a ballistus. Um, Suppressor squad went down to 75. I would love a reason to field these guys. They do have deep strike. They do have some quasi useful ability with some range. Um, they're super squishy though. 4 tough 4, 2 wounds. So I don't know that they're really worth taking, but at least they got cheaper, I guess.
yeah,
Terminators. They do have a what?
they do have
They do
a
have 12-inch
strength.
move.
Their autocannon is decent. So that's 3 attacks. They have strength 8, AP 1, and 3 damage.
Yeah.
And then anything that you hit gives them a -1 to hit.
Yep.
So it's a decent way to tag something that you want to debuff.
Yeah.
So for 75 points, I mean, it's not bad.
Yeah. Terminators went down. I think 5 points. So both variants went down. So for you Terminator lovers out there, Crazy Tacos, I'm talking to you as one of our Discord members. I have some lists with Terminators. I'm an Terminator enjoyer myself, so that's a nice little buff there.
Yep.
So yeah, so that's the points changes, guys. Mostly bad. A couple of quasi interesting drops for us. A lot of irrelevant stuff for us. There was some other changes to the core facts. So we're going to take a quick look at one in particular that caused quite a bit of controversy on the Facebook groups and even in our Discord. Caused some controversy that the UKTC had ruled that a lieutenant cannot join Helbricht when he is attached to one of our bespoke units, namely Primaris Crusader Squads and Sword Brethren, because of some incredibly obtuse reading of the wording of the lieutenant's ability to join another character. So apparently GW heard this and was like, "What are you doing, you fools?" And they fixed it so that there's absolutely no doubt that a lieutenant can join Helbert. So with one of those units. So thankfully that argument is over, and we won't have to worry about that anymore. And one bit of good news for us as Black Templar players is it's not in our index, it's not in a Black Templar FAQ, it's in the index card FAQ. So somebody found this on our Discord I'm very glad they did because I never look at this. I don't own index cards. I have zero reason to read this document, right? It's really just correcting the stuff that's wrong on the index cards.
Yep.
But this says if I target a unit with the Fervent Acclamation stratagem, and then I target the same unit with another stratagem that has an enhanced effect if that Templar vow is active for my army, does that unit benefit from that enhanced effect? And the answer is yes. For the purposes of that second stratagem, the targeted unit is treated as though that Templar vow is active for your army. So those buffs are not massive. I think Crusader's Wrath gives you +1 strength. Um, no Escape gives you a +1 to the roll. The Fight on Death one, I can't remember the name. Vicious Riposte gives you a +1 to the roll. So like they're not, it's not bad. They're pretty decent. So if you fervent one of those things and then use one of those stratagems later on, it could potentially make a difference in your game. So a nice little buff there. Now,
Yep.
the FAQ does not say this, but enhancements are worded exactly the same way as the stratagems. So I think we need to bombard GW with the question is, does the enhancements work the same way? Because with this as a precedent, potentially their intention is yes, it does. So, because they're literally, it's worded exactly the same way. The stratagems says, and I'll pull one up here just so we can look at it. Crusader's Wrath says, until the end of the phase, yada yada yada. If the Suffer Not the Unclean to Vow is active for your army, add 1 to the strength characteristic of that attack as well. If we look at the enhancements, if Suffer Not the Unclean to Live Vow is active for your army, add 1 to the attack's characteristics of the bearer's melee weapon as well. It's worded exactly the same way. So my conjecture is it should apply to the enhancements as well. I know it doesn't say that. What are your thoughts, Bob?
Yeah, I think they were starting to intend to say that this is what it is.
It's a
The intention.
pretty heavy precedent.
Yeah. And they may have just said, copy pasted the question in whatever grammar fixing that they do, and they just said yes, and then just forgot to add in, hey, the enhancements. Yeah. So, I mean, this is precedent, if we're in court, that's important, right? So
the rules lawyer court is in session.
Obviously, you don't go, you're going to take rules as written. That's going to be only affecting the stratagems. But I mean,
I think an argument can be made. And I think if you're attending a tournament, you need to ask the TO and say, look, there's precedent. It's worded exactly the same way. What are your thoughts on it? Because that would be a huge buff to me. That would make up for 40 points per Crusader squad, almost. Because part of the problem with the enhancements, specifically Tannhauser's Bones and Sigismund's Seal, is if you don't take that vow, you are basically not spending those points, right? You're short those points. So, I don't know. So, viewers, take to the GW email and ask this question. Hey, we noticed that you said that this applies to the stratagems. The wording is exactly the same on the enhancements. Does it also apply to enhancements? And see if we can get an answer the next time GW rolls a FAQ around, which, I don't know, might be the data slate. Because this is not a MFM. So a couple months from now, we could have an answer. So yeah. So that's the video, guys. Thanks for sticking around with our ramblings about the points changes and whatnot. Don't get discouraged. Don't lose heart. We will overcome. Bob and I are gonna be talking about how to build your list now. If you want to run Black Tide, what's that look like now? What units are we using? What are going to be the new meta lists with Black Templars with these changes? So stay tuned for videos on that. And until next time, keep on crusading.